welcome to my channel. My name is Martine, and if you are new here, I do videos on Vedic astrology mainly, but also with some tropical insights, and I focus on both relationship and natal astrology. And if you like this video and you would like to see more content from me, don't forget to like the video, subscribe to my channel. Also consider clicking the notifications bell if you want to see when I will post a new video. Also, if you are interested in a private reading, I do readings in astrology on a variety of topics ranging from relationship readings to career to transits for 2-3 years, or solar return charts or predictions for 1 year, etc. You are free to email me at the email address that I will leave in the video description, and I can send you a pricing list and reading options and any other details that you might require. Also, I want to mention that I have started membership options on this channel, and the short of it, just to give you the short perks that you will get if you choose to join the membership section, you will get 1 extra video per month for each membership stage or tier. So for the first tier, you will get 1 extra video per month. For the second tier, you will get 2 extra videos per month, so you will have access to level 1 and level 2 videos. And for level 3 or third tier, you will get 3 extra videos per month. The level 1 and level 3 videos are going to be on a variety of topics, so basically anything related to astrology, but it will be content that is not shown on my regular usual videos, right? So this is members only exclusive content, and it can range from, tips and tricks on how to read a horoscope to, I haven't done this yet, but I plan on doing maybe members only astrological synastry for famous couples, for instance, or the analysis of famous people's horoscopes, but then I can also get into divisional charts, etc., etc. So all kinds of things. The level 1 or second tier of membership options is especially related to synastry astrology topics, meaning relationship-oriented astrology. So this could be things like how to discover which kind of partner archetype is right for you according to your horoscope, or it could be, again, different characteristics, whether you're going to have a good marriage according to your horoscope or a less than stellar marriage. But you can find more concrete examples in the lists that you will find in the video description, because I have added the playlists where you can already see all the videos that I have posted in each members section. So yeah, you can see what videos you will have access to from the ones that I have already done. But I will continue to post, like I said, 1 extra video per month for each level of membership. And in addition to that, in the members only section, you will have access to members only polls, and you will also have priority when it comes to getting your comments replied to on my channel. And you will also have stickers that basically show up next to your username that show that you are a member, and a couple of exclusive emojis. All right, so that's pretty much all the perks that you can have as a member on my channel. If you're curious, you can check the video description for more details as well, or you can click the join button under any of my videos to also see the prices, because the prices will be shown in your local currency. All right, in addition to the members only section, I also have a tarot channel, and I post there semi-regularly, and I will be linking the tarot channel in the video description as well as in the pinned comment. It's called Martine's Tarot. So if you are curious about tarot, if you're into it, maybe check out my channel, maybe subscribe. I would greatly appreciate it. Thank you very much for listening to this intro. And now I'm going to get straight into today's topic. Hello and welcome to my channel. Welcome to another video from me. So today's topic is going to be about the 9th house lord going through houses. It is a continuation of a theme that I started a while ago. I've already done, definitely have done the first house through houses, I think. definitely, I think. And the fifth house lord through houses. I'm going to look through the membership section not the membership section, I'm going to look through my playlist to see all of the related videos as usual, so I'm going to link any related videos in the video description. But I definitely have not done the ninth house lord through houses, so let me get straight into it. And also I want to mention that this is going to be the part 1, which is going to be mainly the positive expressions for the ninth house lord through houses. And you can see the positive expressions usually when the ninth house lord is a benefic planet, which generally means Jupiter, Moon, Mercury, Venus. Even more so when the ninth house lord is particularly strong. So if the planet is in its own sign or in a sign of exaltation, for instance, Jupiter in Cancer as the lord of the ninth house would definitely be a very strong ninth house lord. Okay. So, ninth house lord going into the first house. Right, so in this situation, the ninth house lord is going 5 places away from itself. Now, wait. I'm going to start another parenthesis. I really jumped headfirst into it. I just also want to do a short description of what the ninth house is about, because this is actually potentially the most benefic, positive house in Vedic astrology. It is also the house that the Navamsha is calculated on. You may think that because the Navamsha chart, the D9 divisional chart, or the Navamsha as it is called in Vedic astrology, because it is about the spouse and life after marriage in particular, that it may be derived from the 7th house, but actually it is basically a microscopic look into the 9th house. The ninth house is basically seen as blessings. It is seen as teachings of paternal figures, of the father figure, of gurus, and your religious beliefs, basically your capacity for higher study. This is why ninth house is also connected to higher education, particularly master's degree, usually above master's degree. In most teachings, it's seen as, according to most astrologers, it is seen as mostly doctorate degree, right? PhD and above, or very specialized courses. Aside from that, the ninth house is very much connected to traveling, philosophical thinking, publishing, journalism. So anything that has to deal with a lot of education, a lot of, intellectual activity, a lot of expansion, etc., etc., etc. All of that is the ninth house. And it's also luck, in one word, because again, the ninth house naturally is ruled by Jupiter, which is the planet that governs Sagittarius, the sign that corresponds to the ninth house. And because of that, Jupiter being the great benefic, which is all about the level of luck that a person has, ninth house is also seen as a very positive house, which is connected to getting a lot of luck. Now, of course, the degree of luck that you're going to get to a large extent, like I mentioned, is going to be based on how strong the ninth house itself is, how strong the ninth house lord is. But for the most part, even the most damaged ninth house will bring some blessings. It's just that it may not be as, significant. Another thing with the ninth house is it is seen as one of the houses of wealth as well, right? Because again, there's a correlation between the ninth house and luck and success and happiness and all that. Everything that is really positive in life, fulfillment and all that, is very much connected to the ninth house. So there's a connection to wealth as well. That's why the ninth house being in contact with the other major wealth houses, the 2nd and the 11th, will create these yogas called Dan yogas, which are wealth-related yogas, which show capacity to reach a good amount of success and wealth in life. All right, closing the parenthesis, let me get straight into it finally. So, Ninth house lord going into the first house, right? Like I said, it is going 5 houses away from itself. This obviously is going to be an extremely positive placement. It mostly shows that people will tend to naturally kind of respect you. They will basically even see you as a potential leader. They will see you as someone who is wise and knowledgeable and potentially worldly, someone who has a broad view and a lot of different experiences, can look at things from the broad perspective. They also will see you as someone who is very trustworthy. So again, I'm going to keep mentioning this throughout the video. This is all about the positive expressions of these placements, right? It also shows that the father figure that you have had, whether that was the biological father or someone else, whoever influenced you when you were growing up in terms of your beliefs and things like that, this father figure was a very positive influence, someone who really, played a crucial role in your development, in your sense of identity, may have even been crucial in determining your entire life trajectory. Maybe, for instance, this person has guided you through discovering a certain passion that you later pursued in life, or somehow they were just instrumental, like really, really contributed to your growth and development. Aside from that, it also shows, by the way, that religious beliefs, of course, with respect to whether it's organized religion or not, you would have to look to more specific configurations in the horoscope, but whether it's religious or not, with the 9th house in the first, it does show that your beliefs in general shape your personality a great deal. And you might even identify with your beliefs. You identify with your philosophical views of life and the world. You could also identify a lot with your paternal figure's teachings, or with the teachings of a particular guru or spiritual leader, This can also show that you really need to travel to find yourself. And again, traveling for the most part is a positive experience. It actually helps you to grow, to figure out your path much faster, basically, to figure out where you want to go in life. It also shows that dealing with foreigners as well, to some extent, particularly traveling to foreign places, foreign lands, maybe learning about foreign philosophies, religions and philosophies could become a part of your identity, or it somehow will shape your overall trajectory in life. This also shows that you are generally a pretty creative person. You might even have a flair for the dramatic, a potential talent for acting, for instance, or any kind of creative activity, really. You might also have a natural ability to teach, to be involved in academia, and most likely with these placements, you're going to have a pretty easy time learning. But of course, I always mention this as a disclaimer that it is a one isolated aspect. So of course, you have to always consider the full horoscope to see if it's going to, going to be likely to stay like this, or if you're going to find other configurations that will overpower this one. Right? But if you were to just look at this one aspect and somehow pretend that this is the only thing that you have in your horoscope, this is the way that it would play out. Of course, this also shows that you most likely like to learn, especially things that have to deal with foreign cultures, religion, philosophy. You might also be drawn to journalism, so anything that kind of involves traveling and learning at the same time, or particularly learning about foreign cultures or philosophical topics, or a combination of philosophical topics and foreign cultures. Something like Eat, Pray, Love would definitely be explained by this placement. I haven't checked Elizabeth Gilbert's horoscope, but I wouldn't be surprised if there's some kind of similar configuration there. Alright, this is these are the main things that I could say positively about this placement. If the ninth lord is going into the second house, the positives, again, mainly the main thing that will stand out about this is that it is a Dawn yoga, right? So it means a wealth yoga. So the chances that you will have a good amount of wealth are basically there. Now, what degree of wealth, that will be seen from the rest of the horoscope, looking at things like what else is going on with the other planets, with other configurations, how strong are these houses, how strong are the lords of these houses, and of course things like the Ashtak Varga score. And of course, last but not least, you want to look at the dashas. Which dashas are in place, because if you have a Dawn yoga, then it's most likely that it's going to be activated when you're going through the dashas or the antardashas of the planets connected to these houses. So that right off the bat is obviously very positive. There is this connection to being able to really increase your wealth. In particular, you are more likely to gain fixed assets and also have an easier time with saving money than most people. Which again is this almost the same thing as saying that you're going to be wealthy, right? Because with people who can afford to save a lot of money generally have a lot of extra. All right, but there are degrees, right? So that's why I mentioned saving, because second house is especially connected to saving, right? Other wealth aspects could be more, let's say, risk loving. Maybe it's not so much about saving; it's more about winning money through stock exchange stuff, right? Anyway, closing the parenthesis. Other things that I could say with this one, again, the ninth house being the house of the father or the father figure going into the second house. If this is a positive, which again, this is the topic of this video, if it's a positive situation, it means you had a father figure that really built up your sense of self-esteem, your sense of self-worth. This person also played a very strong role within the family of origin. So with this placement, if it's positive, it's really unlikely that you had an absent father, unless again you had a lot of other configurations that point towards this direction. I also want to mention that when I say father figure, I'm not automatically referring to the biological father. So I've actually seen cases like this where people have these strong configurations in the horoscope where that show they will have a strong father, and they may have never even met their biological father, but they later on have, let's say, a stepfather, or sometimes it's not even a stepfather. It could be, I don't know, a mentor, a karate teacher, whatever, some kind of really strong, invested male figure that becomes a very solid, dependable, guide for the person. So you get all those same benefits of having a healthy sense of self-respect, of self-esteem, and all that. Aside from that, with this placement, it also can show that you are particularly interested in foreign cuisine. You might be very curious to try foods from different countries. Aside from that, you might also, have, I was gonna say a multicultural, in a way, yes, you could definitely have a multicultural country. It could be that somebody in your family of origin came from a different country, right? Or you could be the child of immigrants at some point in your bloodline, right? I know some people are going to listen to this and think, well, that's everybody. Not really. I know plenty of people who, they could trace back their bloodlines to the same place that they were born for like 6 generations at least. But yeah, so you could come from a family of immigrants, or there could be this pattern of, something foreign, something coming from foreign backgrounds coming into your family. And of course, for the most part, this is going to be a positive thing. You're going to make the most of this situation. it's going to be somehow an enriching experience. Another thing, though, is there could be some competitions happening here between you and other family members in the family of origin. There could be competitions, there could be arguments at the same time. These arguments could happen with the father figure, but it doesn't automatically have to be the case. Could be anyone in your family of origin, really. So there could be just a lot of fights, a lot of competition. Again, if this is a positive thing, it's not something that affected you, I don't know, in some kind of traumatizing way. It simply means that actually it helped you to build up again your self esteem and your confidence to have healthy competition and to be encouraged in that direction. I did joke about karate instructor, but now that I think about it, that would be the kind of father that this placement would show. Of course, it's still a very general configuration, so a lot has to be seen in individual horoscopes and what else is going on around there because, a lot can influence this one placement. But if, again, I were to pretend that this is the only configuration in the horoscope and it's a positive situation, it means that you would pretty much have that kind of a father that actually encourages you to join competitions as a way for you to build up your sense of self-worth. It also can show that the father's teachings, or again, the father figure's teachings, or the teachings of a guru or a religious person that you follow, somehow help you save money or help you make more money. And they also somehow influence your diet. I know it sounds very specific. And they might also influence the way that you deal with your family. Or your ideas towards family in general. Now, if the ninth house lord is going into the third house, this means that it is going 7 places away from itself. And if this is a positive situation, this is going to be a very good configuration in the horoscope of someone who wants to be self-employed or even an entrepreneur. It basically shows that you will gain a lot of luck through pursuing your willpower, whatever it is that you truly want. If you go for it, chances are that things are going to work out exactly the way that you want them, provided that you put in the right amount of effort. Of course, a lot, as usual, I always mention this disclaimer, has to be viewed from the perspective of the entire horoscope and what else is going on there, because there will be nuances to these interpretations since this is a very general description. But for the most part, this is very, very positive. One thing that you will also see with these placements is the person loves to travel. Travel is also going to be generally a very positive experience. There might be a lot of gains through traveling. And again, a lot depends on what other things are going on, what other placements are happening at the same time in this horoscope, because there will be degrees of this, all right? So, for instance, if this is happening in fixed signs, right, let's say the third and the ninth houses are in fixed signs, and the lords of the third and the ninth houses are both, let's say, in fixed signs, right? You may not see that much traveling, or you might see a person who does like to travel, but it's going to be mostly within the same country, right? Or maybe even within the same city. They may like to, I don't know, run errands or something, or like drive around a lot, but not necessarily travel internationally, right? Whereas if there's a lot of mutable signs here, or movable signs, right? Then you might have people who become globetrotters, or people who turn traveling into even a full-time business, right? This would, by the way, would be a great placement, very fitting for someone who wants to be like a travel vlogger or travel blogger. Yeah, something along those lines, especially if there's also a connection to the 10th house from one of these houses or the first house. So that is a major positive thing. Another thing with this is that you will get you will have a younger sibling if you have a younger sibling. You will have a younger sibling that is very well educated, that will have a lot of positive qualities that somehow you might really gain from, you might benefit from. So they could be wealthy, they could be renowned, they could just be a very wise person that you can, trust and consult with and all that. Aside from that, because the third house is also your neighborhood, this could also show that you're generally going to be fortunate when it comes to, let's say, the neighbors, the neighborhood that you're living in. You might also find yourself being in neighborhoods where there are a lot of foreign people around, people from different cultural backgrounds. Either that, well, it can be an and or, right? It could be and or there could be people around you that are very religious. Well, not very, but people that are religious. Okay, let me just say religious without the very. So people who identify as religious, and they're or people who are just very faith based. They really define themselves through their belief systems. Speaking of how you define yourself and or how one defines oneself, with this placement, you're also going to have a natural inclination towards academia. Now, of course, to which extent, again, has to be seen from the full horoscope and what else is going on in other houses with other signs, other planets, etc. But again, if I were to just pretend that this is the only configuration you have in your horoscope, this would be a very, very good placement for someone who wants to get into academia, who wants to pursue a higher education, master's and above. Someone who can be quite a bit of a bookworm sometimes, right? So there's a very strong desire for expansion intellectually, right? There's a need to consume a lot of information, to see the world at large, right? To get this kind of a wider perspective on things, right? Um, Aside from that, you could gain a lot of advantages through your speaking. So your style of communication, whether it's literally verbal communication or your writing. That's another thing, by the way. This placement would be great for someone who wants to write professionally, right? Or even as a hobby. You could, again, if I were to just look at this one placement, ignoring the rest of the horoscope, it is definitely a kind of placement that would make one very good at writing. Another thing actually is it could be good. It could give a person the ability to write music, especially classical instrumental music, but any kind of music really. So you could become fortunate through music. Another thing with this is it will give a talent for diplomacy as well. It will give a talent for oration, basically, like being a good public speaker. So again, any situation where you have to talk a lot, where you have to address an audience, people with this placement will be favored doing that. Okay. Okay, so ninth house lord going into the fourth house. So in this situation, the ninth house lord is going 8 placements away from itself. Technically, this placement is not the happiest, but it's also still the ninth house lord that we're talking about, which is the most benefic house. So there's still going to be some positive sides to it. So, the positive side with this one, a really big one, is the fact that you might have very good luck with real estate. So, this could be that you are just, even if, let's say, you never buy your own home, you're going to be lucky to always find a place when you need one. You're going to have pretty decent homes that are quite large and spacious and in decent neighborhoods, in safe areas. That's another thing, right? So Yeah, it will tend to bring a lot of fortune in real estate. Same thing with vehicles, right? So you could be really lucky in having nice cars, or again, always being able to find a car when you need one. Same thing with any mode of transportation. If you have a boat or a, a motorcycle or a bicycle or an e-bike or anything, right? Or a horse, right? If this is a positive situation, you will see having, you will tend to give you the ability to have very good modes of transportation. Aside from this, because the ninth house lord is going into the fourth house, which is the house of early education and the mother side of the family, this can also show that your mother has been a person who was very educated, is very, depending on the situation, whether she still is or was, very educated, right? So, because of that ninth house, this could even show a mother who was in some form of higher education, involved in academia. Does not always have to be the case. It could just show a really well educated mother figure. And it also shows that there are a lot of positive things coming from the mother, right? Meaning that the mother probably had a lot of wisdom, a lot of intelligence, a good level of education. So there were a lot of healthy teachings coming from your mother, right? Another thing with this is the early childhood could have been very good. So, fourth house is childhood and education up until the end of high school. Yeah. So, this could mean you had a very good time. You could have had one of those idyllic childhoods and high school years where everything, or most things, let's say, were very positive and you were happy and you had friends and blah, 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 right? So it could protect you from a lot of potentially bad experiences. And also, it shows that you probably had a very good early education. So up until high school graduation, things could have also run smoothly with your education. Of course, I always mention this as a disclaimer, and I will mention it again, that this is a very general configuration. So there could be a lot of things in the horoscope to potentially offset the impact of this one configuration. So that's why the full horoscope has to be looked at. But if I were to just isolate this one aspect and look at it, these would be the results that you would get. Another thing with the 8th placement, of course, this could show that actually your mother, and again, your early childhood experiences, including your education, could have had a very strong transformative effect on you. It can also show that later on in life, whenever you're going through some kind of a rough patch, a time of feeling maybe lost a little bit, or confused, or you need some guidance, it would be a good idea to actually get back, travel back to your home environment, your homeland, maybe get in touch with your mother or someone from your mother's side of the family. That will help give you clarity. And speaking of happiness, this placement actually can bring a lot of happiness. Again, provided that this is the positive expression of this placement, you could see people who generally are in a pretty good mental and emotional state, which, let's be honest, nowadays is pretty rare. So if you have that, appreciate it. But yeah, pretty much it would mean that you have generally a good sense of happiness, a lot of good things happening in life that set you up for an even, healthy temperament. And another thing, of course, could mean that another thing that it could show is you feel comfortable traveling, right? So you could be the kind of person that feels comfortable just about anywhere, or feels at home just about anywhere. This is also a placement where it can show that your mother or someone from your mother's side of the family could have been an immigrant in your homeland, right? Because of the 9th house influence on the 4th house. You could also have an interest in history or archaeology, and sorry, I got distracted with something. You could also just generally very much like to travel. And you could also be very attached emotionally to your father's teachings, to your gurus, um, to your teachers. So anyone who's kind of like a guide, a professor, a father figure, you're going to be really attached to them emotionally. And speaking of the father figures and the gurus, they might actually act like a mother towards you, meaning they could be really nurturing and understanding and patient and loving and kind and all that. Yeah, so overall, a very positive placement. One more thing that I can say with this one is it could really bring an interest in research, right? So you might really like to delve into particularly areas that have to deal with archaeology, history, especially the history of your homeland or of your mother side of the family, or whoever comes from a different culture, right? So there is this curiosity about understanding the origins, getting to the root of things. There could also be an interest in psychology. But again, the reason I mentioned so many different options is because a lot has to be seen from individual horoscopes in order to get a more specific interpretation of how the horoscope is going to play out. Now, if the ninth house lord is going into the fifth house, this means that it's actually going 9 places away from itself. So obviously, because of a concept in Vedic astrology called the Bhavat Bhavam, this becomes the ninth from the ninth house. It's actually seen as kind of a higher self of the ninth house. So it's like an uber ninth house. It's a very positive placement, especially again if the ninth house lord is in a positive situation, meaning it's in its own sign and it's an exalted sign. There are no major malefic influences. You could also look at the Ashtaka Varga to see, which planet has the highest scored, which, houses have the highest scores, etc. So there are a bunch of things that would have to be checked to see 100% if a house is strong or if the lord of the house is strong. But overall, if this is a positive situation, it basically means that you are going to get a lot of luck. A lot of luck. More specifically, there will be a lot of luck coming through education, with the chances that you will become very highly educated, also naturally very intelligent with this placement, is really very high. Again, provided that these are all positively impacted, positive aspects, benefics, no malefic influences, etc., etc. Right? So the more positive influences you have on these houses, the more of the positive expressions you will get. You could be an extremely creative person. This would definitely be a great placement for someone who wants to be any kind of a writer, whether you want to be a novelist or a playwright or anything. You want to write movie scripts, etc. It's a very, very positive placement. It actually specifically is a very good placement for people who want to be in the dramatic arts because of that double, not double, but because of a very strong fifth house influence. Yeah. Another thing with this one is you could really absolutely love to travel. There's a very strong interest in traveling, and traveling for the most part is going to be a beneficial activity, provided that the rest of the horoscope doesn't contradict this. This would mean that basically you could gain a lot of advantages by traveling. Aside from that, it also tends to show that your children are going to be a very positive influence on your life. It will show that your children, first and foremost, will be well educated, also very wise. They will bring a lot of blessings, a lot of benefits to you. So yeah, you're pretty much going to have great children with this placement. Chances are, again, that after the child's birth, your life is going to get significantly better. Even if you don't have kids with this, however, look for the dashas and the antardashas of the planets ruling the 5th and the ninth houses. Also, any planets sitting in the 5th or ninth houses, because these dashas and antardashas will activate these houses very strongly. So you're most likely to see these effects around those times. Another thing is very strong tendency towards academia. So you could definitely be interested in becoming a teacher, a professor, getting into research, again, getting a PhD. So it's a great placement for anyone who is very, very interested in getting, higher education, maybe even getting involved in research and things that are very, very high and elevated intellectually. Another thing with this one is you could really care a lot about religion, or you might be very passionate about the topic of beliefs in general. And you could also be really passionate about arts and creativity. You could also be very passionate and interested in children as well. Also, when it comes to the topic of children with this placement, again, if I were to just look at this one placement and pretend like no other configurations exist in one's horoscope, right? If this is a very good placement for fertility. Chances are that you will not have any problems conceiving or, producing a child, right? But again, that's why I mentioned everything has to be looked at from the perspective of the entire horoscope to see exactly how this is going to play out. But like I said, with this aspect in particular, this is really positive when it comes to children, right? Aside from that, it also shows that the father's teachings, or your literally it could be your biological father or any kind of father figure that you have had. It could also be your guru, your religious leader, your whatever, any kind of like a guide, mentor, paternal figure, etc. They have really built up your sense of self, your authenticity. So you have had paternal figures and gurus that have really encouraged you to be authentic, to be yourself. This is also why with this placement, there's a lot of creativity, because chances are that you are, unabashedly yourself. You probably have the capacity to, really have fun, to loosen up, to be spontaneous, because a lot of these things would have been encouraged when you were growing up. And this can definitely also show, sorry if I'm repeating myself because I don't remember if I mentioned it, but this will definitely show an interest in traveling, right? So again, it would be a great placement for anyone who wants to work in some profession that is connected to traveling. Or anything connected to tourism, actually, for that matter. As well as anything connected to ninth house activities in general, right? So you're going to be the kind of person that loves everything ninth house related, basically. You will love travel and higher education and philosophical discussions and looking at the big picture and learning about other cultures, learning about religions, beliefs. Yeah, so all that sugar, spice, and everything nice. Now, if the ninth house lord is going into the 6th house, this means that it is going 10 places away from itself. It also shows that, 6th house is connected to enemies, it's connected to competitions and fights. It's also connected to health and your overall health situation, pets as well. So with this placement, again, looking at it from the positive perspective, because this is what this video is about, the positive expressions of these placements. It's a very good placement, especially when it comes to your health. Chances are that you won't have too many ailments or too many serious health issues with this placement. It will also be very positive in terms of pets. Pets could really bring you a lot of benefits, a lot of blessings, a lot of joy, right? Could even bring you some good karma, right? With this placement. Another thing is you could be extremely competitive when it comes to education, particularly when it comes to master's degree and above, right? Once you get to your, let's say you could have been the kind of person that was not particularly driven when you were in high school, let's say, but then once you reach a certain age, maybe not even in college, right? But once you reach, let's say, your master's or your PhD, you start to become very competitive about, about how you rank, maybe, let's say, in your study program, or you're comparing yourself to other people. You might find yourself enlisting in competitions more. Speaking of competitions, of course, with this placement, it also shows that a lot of luck, a lot of blessings are going to come into your life when you willingly go for competitions, when you put yourself in situations where you have to be competitive. Um, of course, with this placement, it would be a great placement. I mean, for someone who wants to get into any kind of medical science, right? Because again, it is a tense aspect. So the ninth lord is going 10 placements from itself and into the sixth house, which is connected to healthcare. So the 10th aspect especially has to deal with responsibility, with karma. So again, with the positive expression of this placement, you could have a person who would definitely have a great career in healthcare, right? Um, Aside from that, it can also show that your father's teachings, or the father figure's teachings, have really impacted your attitude towards competitions, towards pets, towards your daily routine. So, and by the way, when I say father figure, it could be anyone. It doesn't automatically have to be your biological father. It could be anyone in your life that has acted, or that you have perceived in somehow to be your paternal figure somehow. And same thing with religious leaders, right? Religious leaders or gurus, mentors, tutors, right? Anyone that was kind of a semi, at least, paternal figure. So these people could have really influenced your attitudes towards competition, maybe even towards health, right? They could have really told you how to take care of your health, but mostly, again, with the positive expressions, this is all positive, right? So it means that somehow you have benefited from their knowledge, from their guidance. Also, they could have taught you about how to deal with pets or how to deal with animals in general. And like I said, daily routines as well. Maybe you had, I don't know, just to give you a random example, you could have had a father figure that was very disciplined, and because of that they instilled the same discipline, and maybe you have gained a lot of capacity for productivity and for impressing people at job interviews, lol, because of your father's teachings, just giving an example. Of course, with this placement, it would be very fitting for you if you actually got a job in anything connected to ninth house matters, which means, for instance, anything travel related, like working for a travel agency, being a tour guide, even on a higher level, being something like an ambassador. Anything kind of like travel related could be a good job option for you. At the same time, anything sort of higher intellectual activities, being a writer, being a philosopher, being being a published author in general, right, can be very ninth house, because ninth house is about publishing, it's about journalism. Journalism, again, is a good option, right? So with this placement, basically it makes the person very inclined to continue educating themselves throughout their entire lives, right? And just enjoying education, enjoying expanding their horizons. It's unlikely that with this placement, the person is ever going to stop learning and just become blasé, basically. Aside from this, if the 9th house lord is going into the 7th house, here it is going 11 placements from itself. Again, this is a very positive configuration. So here, going into the 7th house, of course, the 7th house is the house of the spouse or partnerships in general. It's also the house that shows how you react or how you relate to people in one-on-one situations, in partnerships of any kind. It also actually, especially in Vedic astrology, connects to your attitude towards sexuality. So with the 9th house going into the 7th house, this, again, sorry for the potential TMI here, but it would be a very on-point explanation for someone who, let's say, is interested in something like Kama Sutra, for instance, right? Why? Because the 9th house would be, philosophies, number one. It could also show foreign culture, so... and the 7th house, again, is the house of sexuality. So it makes sense, right? It would potentially create an interest in philosophies connecting sexuality or, anything that links sexuality to higher knowledge, for instance. Aside from that, of course, with the 7th house, this could definitely be one of those placements that show you will have a foreign spouse. It is not like the strongest placement, but with the 9th house, showing traveling, foreign cultures, again, there is a pretty decent probability that the spouse is going to be coming from a different culture. At the very least, it could show that you might meet this person in a different culture, right? But again, it is one configuration, and you would have to look at the entirety of the horoscope to actually draw a more specific conclusion. And now, because it's going 11 placements from itself, this is a very positive situation for pretty much anyone, basically, because it shows that the spouse somehow is going to increase the quality of your life, is going to increase gains. It will also potentially show that you and your spouse might start out being friends first, right? Or you are also, in addition to being a romantic couple, you also have the ability to be very good friends. This can also show very good gains from partnerships in general. It's one of those placements that also promises a good marriage, again, provided that the rest of the horoscope does not contradict this in any significant way. It does show that, right? So good marriage, happy, a very wise, very educated spouse. That brings a lot of blessings, a lot of luck into your life, basically. And also, as I was about to say, it potentially shows very good success in partnership-based business. Financially. Of course, this could also mean that you might start a partnership-based business with your spouse, of course. But again, a lot would have to be seen from the rest of the horoscope to get more specific directions of how this is going to play out. The spouse could also be a person who is well-traveled. Like I said, there might be an element of foreignness or a foreign element about the spouse. But aside from that, they could be someone who is well-traveled, has a broad view, could be philosophical, could also be religious, or just someone who has pretty strong belief systems and is guided by beliefs to a large extent, beliefs and principles. And is likely to be educated, pretty well educated. Okay, this is pretty much, there's one more thing that I want to say. Of course, with this placement, actually, it shows that because you had a very good paternal figure, a good father figure, Whether it was the biological father or whether it was some other male figure that stepped into the role of being a kind of paternal figure for you. Because of a positive role model, basically, you're going to attract a lot of positivity in your marriage as well. So most likely you will be modeling your marriage based on the father's teachings or the father's examples, right? And again, when I say father, I mean father figure. So it doesn't automatically mean that this is a biological father figure. It could be anyone who kind of took on that role in your life. It could be multiple people, of course. But for the most part, yeah, it shows positive influence here. Could also be somehow that the father actually facilitates the marriage in some way, maybe introduces you to your spouse, or of course it could just be like a karmic thing, you know, because again, the father figure could have been a very wise, elevated person, and they pass down a lot of positive teachings to you. You just learn to make the right choice of partner, basically, and also learn how to treat your partner properly. Yeah. Okay, this is pretty much what I can say. So this is going to be just a part 1, which is for ninth house lord through houses 1 through 7. This is because this video has already dragged on and it's close to 1 hour already. So I don't want to, I don't want to overwhelm people with information. Of course, I will be continuing this series. The next part is going to be the positive expressions of ninth lord through houses 8 through 12. And then I'm going to start with the potential negative expressions of the ninth house lord through houses. And most likely I'm also going to divide it into 2 videos, one for houses 1 through 7th and one for houses 8th through 12th. Yeah, so again, if you have enjoyed this video, don't forget to like, subscribe to my channel, click on the notifications bell to see when I will upload a new video. Also, of course, feel free to comment in the comment section. Very importantly, please tell me how it resonates, how maybe it didn't resonate, any kind of examples, counter examples that you can think about. Of course, make sure to keep it respectful. And yeah, it would help me, it would help other people, it would help a lot if you could leave a comment and maybe describe how this resonates with your experience, or maybe of how it resonates with other people that you know and their experiences. Aside from that, of course, if you are interested in a private consultation, I do consultations on a wide variety of topics. I have left my email address in the video description, so you can email me for reading options, a pricing list, etc., any other details that you're interested in. I have mentioned this quite a few times already, but I'm going to keep mentioning it. I don't feel comfortable making a public list of my services and the prices and everything, so that's why I ask people to send me an email. But I can promise you that I don't use those emails for anything other than sending you the pricing lists when you ask for it, so I don't spam people or anything like that. So yeah, if you're curious, you can go ahead and ask me. And aside from that, of course, if you are interested in becoming a member, you can check out the introductory part to this video, where I have described the membership section more in depth. You can also check out the membership playlists in the video description. You will see what videos I have posted so far. I've already posted quite a few videos under each membership section. So yeah, if you're curious to find out more about them, go ahead and check them out. Would definitely love to have you as a member. Aside from that, last but not least, I also have a tarot channel, which I have started a lot more recently than this channel. I've only started it, I think about 3 or 4 years ago. I don't remember. Actually, I think about 3 years ago. Yeah, so go ahead and check it out. If you're curious about tarot, maybe subscribe. I would greatly appreciate it. Thank you very much for listening, and I hope to see you at my next video. Bye.